Do you believe that something that happened over 40 years ago and lasted 3 minutes could make a huge impact on my life or on yours? Stay tuned. Here comes a great story. Welcome to the Art of a Meaningful Life, and it is time for a really great story. Not a good story, but a really great story. And if you know anything about stories, and I know most of us do because we love watching Hulu, Netflix, going to the movies, reading books, they're all about great stories. And there's certain elements that are in every great story. A hero. There needs to be a hero, somebody who is facing like insurmountable odds and challenges and is just feeling like they're not going to get there and they're not going to be able to achieve what they need to and feel a little bit lost. So there are tons of challenges involved for that. And then enter in the helper. And the helper is that character who really is more about the wisdom, but is there to support the hero on their journey in order for them to get what it is they need to do. And sometimes the hero isn't even sure, right? They learn that along the way. And the helper plays a really, really important role, but it's really more about the hero. And then, most stories have a villain, and the villain is oftentimes a person, someone who gets in the way of the hero, who makes it difficult for the helper to do what they need to do, and basically creates more obstacles, and usually in a really not nice way, right? But a villain, while we usually think of that as the bad guy, a person, it can also be circumstances. So if you think about when you think about cancer, you see a lot of things that say fight cancer, end cancer, Alzheimer, some of the chronic, terrible diseases and things are about a battle, right? Well, in that case, the disease itself ends up being the villain. And usually the hero then is the person who is facing those tough times, trying to heal themselves from whatever's going on. So that's just an example of a circumstance versus a person. Got down a little rabbit hole there. Sorry about that, but we're back on track. And in this story today, you pay attention because might wonder who's the hero and who's the helper here. And I guarantee you this story has a really beautiful, happy ending. So stay with me. So a few months ago, actually probably now 8 months, time goes so fast, about 8 months ago, I was going through collecting a lot of taking some of my negatives from photographs taken through decades and making them into files so that I could make my son a little narrative really to tell him things probably he doesn't remember, when he was younger and stuff about his life. And I'm thinking I want him to have that. And whether I'm here or not, I want him to have that. But certainly if I'm not here, the stories need to continue. And so I looked and I've got probably 30 of these boxes that are filled with envelopes, which are filled with negatives. So I knew I'm still working on that 8 months later. I'm still going through them, putting them together, but that's okay. Again, I got sidetracked. Okay, back on track. As I'm going through, I found some from the early 1980s when I was a very young nurse, and in particular, a time when I was a neonatal ICU nurse. I was 25. I had been a nurse for 5 years. And this was a relatively new place for me, though. I had worked in the hospital, done a variety of things, really did not like being a nurse. I'm going to just be real frank with you there. It was something I really thought I would love. But it wasn't really nursing that I didn't like. It was the places I had been. But I found my home in neonatal ICU. I was working with very premature or babies who were born very ill and caring for them. And so after, 3, 4, 6 months, I was given an assignment that was my very first primary patient. And so this is December of 1984. And the nurse in charge says, I'm assigning you to this baby who was born yesterday, very premature, just barely 3 pounds. And his parents are very young, like 20s, which wasn't that young to me, but still young, and very emotional. And we think that you'll be a good fit for this family. Well, I'm like, okay, I'm not sure I totally get why I'm be such a great fit, but I'm great with that. And my very first primary patient, meaning this baby was going to be one I took care of every day I was working, which was 3 to 11 and 5 days a week, and would get to know his family really well. Something that I definitely craved at a time in my career, which continued on the rest of my 40 years. Definitely, that's the thing that I grew to love about nursing, was caring for families and for people and being a part of that journey for them. There's a little hint, part of their journey. And so I'm caring for this baby, and there's a lot. If you know neonatal ICU and prematurity, it's a roller coaster ride. Good days, bad days. Even everything could be going fine, and things can crash really quickly. And it's a very high stress for everyone involved. And I really had to be on my toes. And yet, clinically, so it was a real strong blend of what I call that masculine energy, knowing everything I needed to, or I could know about caring for a premature baby, all the tubes, the wires, looking at the lab work, and all of those kind of things, as well as being compassionate and present and kind and understanding to families who are likely going through the worst times of their lives, right? And I'm 25, which means, I knew everything. I knew everything. No, I did not. I had a lot to learn. But this particular family taught me way more than I think I could ever explain to them. And so, the baby was born December 3rd. And as we're getting around Christmas and Christmas time, his mother shared with me how the hardest thing for her was Christmas Day. Her baby was going to be about 3 weeks old, a little over, and they had yet to hold him. So having a child, I didn't then, but after, I recognized just how traumatizing that would be, to have a baby and to only be able to look at them through a plexiglass isolette, through basically glass, and not be able to really, not to hold them. And, that's one of the first things, if you have grandchildren or children, you want to hold your baby. And they were denied that because he was so fragile. And so she was talking about Christmas and how hard that was going to be. And her husband was there. And my wheels started to turn, because I'm thinking, it's about time. I think he's getting to be strong enough that maybe even for a minute or two, we could do this. And one of the neonatologists, the physicians there, said, nah, I think maybe we could wait another day. Like maybe the day after Christmas, because he seems to be doing okay, but maybe another day. And I said, it's so important. It's so important for this family for Christmas, at least Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. And he just said, I don't know. I'll think about it. And so to me, that was a yes. I don't know about you, but I think about it is a yes. So it wasn't, but I thought it was. And no, I knew it wasn't, but that's okay. In caring for this baby who I grew to love and look forward to seeing every day and watching him grow, I also cared for the family, and the family really needed these moments. And so I got together with some of my coworkers who I just loved. They were like family, like a family for me. We're all in our pink scrubs, and I'm telling them the story, and we put together a plan. And I talked to the dad about this plan. And I said, hey, this is what we're thinking. And he said, I have an idea. I'm going to do this. I said, okay. So together for Christmas Day, which I was working during the day that day. And here comes Mom in her yellow paper gown, tears streaming down her face because it's Christmas Day. And she's not going to get to hold her baby. And so as she comes in, we're all on alert, because I had a set time. The time the neonatologist went to lunch, by the way, true story there, at 12:30. And I'm like, have a seat. I have a surprise for you. So I grabbed the radio that Dad had brought in, which was to set a dial. For those of you that don't know, radios had dials in, and you had to kind of find the station. And I turned it on like he had asked, and Elvis' song "I'll Be Home for Christmas" was playing. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I've tried to tell the story so many times, but this part really gets me, really gets me big. And it's hard not to cry. It was just so beautiful. And she's sitting there going, "What? What?" And I said, you're going to hold him today. And his name was Randy. You're going to hold Randy today. And so we got together working pretty quick. And I say we, the other nurses, or swarm of pink. And the room actually, other than always the beep, 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 there was silence. It was this moment that every parent in there knew how, like, this sacred moment she was going to hold her baby for the first time. And Elvis is crooning, and I'm got tears coming down, but not near like mom. Mom was losing it, and I totally, totally understand. And I thought, I can't lose it, because I got to do right by them. And we gently swallowed him, took care with all the wires and the tubes, and just hearing the beeping. And I just ever so gently handed him over to her for her very first time ever. So yeah, Elvis is still singing. The room is silent, and it was a moment. And I looked and I said, "Lori, we have 3 minutes, and I'm going to watch. If anything happens, if he doesn't tolerate this, because he's very fragile, right? We're going to have to stop, but this is what we're going to do." And I don't know if I could have ever given a better gift than that, right? And so she had her 3 minutes, and she's talking to him, and just crying, and it was a moment. And so the question I want to bring up to you is, like, what would you do if you were me? So I'm there. I just saw as I just need to hold the space for them and to be present. And I'm watching, definitely, that, as I called it before, the masculine energy. I am watching all the tubes, the wires, all the monitors, all the stuff. I'm watching. I'm making sure that little Randy is doing okay. But I'm also making sure that mom knows that this space, this sacred space, is not just found, it was created, and it was created for them. And therefore, I didn't really have to do anything but be present and just allow for whatever was going to happen as far as they're concerned. That is a part of the story I have no control over. And it was a beautiful, beautiful 3 minutes. It seemed short, and yet it seemed profound. And when it was time, to put him back, and we got him all nestled, he did wonderfully. And we finished before the doctor got back with his lunch. He did wonderful. And, his mom just hugged me and cried. She says, "You have no idea. You have no idea what a gift you've given us." And I thought I did. I really thought I did have a good idea about that. And I honestly didn't until I had my own child. But I knew it was big. And when I think about that, I think sometimes the problem that we have in our society, and then too, even more so now, is that we have a need to do. We've got to be doing something, doing this, doing that. There's quite a hustle, we're on our phones, we're doing stuff. And sometimes it's not about what we're doing, but it's about who we are being in that moment, who we are being. And who I was being at that time, besides, a conscientious nurse, I was being the person holding that space and protecting and just being there for her for whatever she needed. And if you've ever had a need for that in your life and experienced it, you know how powerful it is. And I would love to say at 25, I knew exactly how powerful that was, but I really didn't. Only as life went on and I really got the wisdom that I needed. And now, almost 66, like I get it. Sometimes, a lot of times, in fact, the best thing you can do is simply to be. Just be present, not look at your phone, not look around, not look at whatever is going to happen. And in addition to that, I allowed them to be who they needed to be in that moment, what they needed to do. And I also got to be who I wanted to be in that moment. And which means, yeah, tears came to my eyes. And, if I was going to get written up for anything, it probably would have been for caring too much, which wouldn't have been the first time, let me just say. would have been the first time, would be for caring too much, not for letting them hold the baby 12 hours ahead of time or anything like that. So when you're thinking about a situation and you're wondering, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? Just be present to begin with. Hold that sacred space. Hold that, create that safe place for people, because it's one of the greatest gifts you can give. Now, the story's almost over here because that's a beautiful story, right? And they got to hold their baby. It was Christmas. And I've often wondered, what happened with them? How did Randy do? Where are his parents? What are they doing? What's happened in life? And definitely, as I'm looking through this stack of negatives and other pictures, I may or may not have looked them up, which will be our part 2. I'm just telling you, we're going on 17 minutes here. This was going to be our part 2. What happened next? Because that was 40 years ago. 40 years. So little Randy, this teeny tiny, very fragile baby, is 40 years old. Oh my gosh. I was curious, of all things, creativity and curious. That's me. Very curious. And so, yeah, stay tuned to part 2 so you could hear, what did they remember me? Do they even know me? Did I even find them? What happened? Let's see. And I hope today brings some meaning into your life and you start to think more about the power of presence. I'm not sure I could even say that enough. The power of presence is huge. All right, stay tuned for next week. Bye-bye.